The tab reloaded again. The cursor jittered angrily. Blue light flooded my knuckles. The mug cooled. My name is Mark, and I'm 34 tonight. Her comment sat there, bright as a bruise. Somewhere across town, Lena was at her class. Maybe. Keys clicked dry under my fingers. The coaster stuck. Outside, sirens curled around a block like smoke. The comment said she'd call someone daddy online. My ring scraped the desk. My throat tightened. A notification blinked. The router hummed steadily. The kitchen smelled like burnt coffee and old dust. 9 minutes ago, her username posted that line. The wall clock clicked twice. My stomach dropped. I leaned closer. The spoon glinted beside the keyboard. Her handle carried a heart and 2 digits. It felt homemade and careless, like an afterthought. The fridge kicked on. My jaw clenched hard. Who was she promising that to at midnight? I scrolled slowly, the trackpad tugged at my skin. Lemon cleaner clung to the air and stung. Replies piled like teeth. The fonts jittered. A user asked for names, and she answered quick. My pulse ticked against the spacebar, counting lies. Upstairs, a neighbor dragged furniture across thin boards. The radiator pinged and settled. The paint flaked. She wrote that she liked older men with rules. I pictured her thumbs moving, fast and sure. Whose rules did she crave when ours felt ignored? A draft slid under the window. The blinds rattled. Streetlight bled thin gold across the laptop lid. I typed her name slowly, then erased it. My tongue tasted metal. Fear grew roots. What did I even want to find now? I grabbed a notebook. The paper rasped dry. I wrote the timestamp and the thread title. The ink smelled sharp under the desk lamp. Another comment appeared. My chest tightened again. Her voice felt close through a glowing hole. I reached for my phone. It buzzed warm. You a class? I typed, watching my reflection. Almost done, she replied. Then the typing bubble stalled. My thumb hovered above call. I pulled back. The dots vanished slowly, like a door closing. I scrolled her post history. The mouse clicked. Old threads glowed faint like fossils under neon. She joked about pet names and late-night gifts. A screenshot link waited. My palms went damp. I opened it like cracking ice at night. A chat window filled the screen. Letters bled. Her sentences were sweet and clipped like code. A username called her good girl, generous. The charger brick ticked softly. My ears burned. What part of her lived exactly in those lines? I glanced at our corkboard. The calendar shone. The yoga nights lined up, and so did posts. Red pins matched ours. My gut went cold. The apartment seemed smaller. Every sound pressed. The pattern felt like fingerprints on warm glass. I turned the faucet. Water ran icy. The dish towel scratched my palm. It steadied me. I rehearsed a question softly, then swallowed it. The laptop fan whirred louder and waited. Truth needs air. Lies breed in heat. I slid open the drawer. Cedar breathed up. A flash drive waited there, and dust clung. I copied the thread quietly, watched progress crawl. The copy bar crept pale blue, refusing hurry. Proof first, then breath, then whatever comes next. The page refreshed itself. A new reply flashed. The chair leather squeaked under me and held. She promised a stranger names and comfort. Emojis bloomed. Blue light cut my ring. I finally breathed. I was in the thread now, nowhere safe. The kettle screamed on the stove. Steam fogged the window glass. I pulled the curtain aside with a damp sleeve. The counter trembled under the buzzing phone. Unknown number blinking. Keys clinked as she stepped in. Detergent clung to her hoodie like rain. She set a dented water bottle beside the sponge. Sleep okay? I asked. Her eyes flashed at the clock. Already late. Pretty good, she said. She twisted the cap till it squeaked. Morning light slid over her phone face down. The cracked corner caught the shine like ice. My jaw locked against a question, rising fast. I can drive you, I said. She rolled one sleeve and shook her hair. The bracelet on her wrist clicked like a metronome. I'll walk, she said. The snub landed like grit on my tongue. She grabbed her mat bag from the chair. Vanilla and street air tangled behind her shoulder. The door shut with a rubbery thud. I touched the wool scarf hanging from the rack. Fibers scratched my knuckles, like a warning I deserved. I flipped the lid on the trash can. Sour coffee and lemon cleaner rose together. A folded receipt stuck to a tea bag string. The logo read Loft East Studios in silver. The ink smudged my thumb as if alive. I pressed the receipt under the lamp. Warm light pooled around the curls of paper. The date showed last night with a room code. A line read Studio B and after-hours access. My ring tapped the desk, counting choices I hated. I opened the hall closet slowly. Dust puffed like chalk from the top shelf. A small ring light box sat behind boots. A travel tripod leaned cold against the wall. The cardboard rasped like a throat clearing behind me. I dialed the number on the receipt. The speaker hissed, and a menu voice purred. I held the phone flat on the table. Press 2 for studio services, the recording said. A click answered with breathing that was not mine. A woman came on and cleared her throat. Printer noise crackled behind her like dry rain. Is Studio B open tonight? I asked. Members only, she said. The call dropped hard against the wood table. I checked the mail slots in the lobby. Toner smell leaked from a fresh flyer stack. A postcard for Loft East showed neon curtains. A lanyard clip was stapled to the corner. I slid it into my pocket, something thin and sharp. My phone vibrated on the stool. A calendar alert chimed like a cheap bell. Need anything from the store, I typed. All good, she wrote. The tiny bubbles hung like gnats over water. I grabbed the black jacket from the hook. The fabric felt slick and cool against skin. Rain breathed through the cracked window like whispers. I took the folded umbrella from the bin. My heart beat against it, hollow and drum-like. I slid the receipt into my wallet. The lanyard pressed a cold line against my thigh. Streetlights slipped across the floor in thin bars. I laced my shoes tight until the tongue bit. I pictured her route mapping itself like tracks. I stepped into the stairwell and the air cooled. Someone's TV spilled laughter through a cracked door. My hand slid along the metal rail. It felt greasy and permanent under sweat. The building hummed like a throat before shouting. I pushed through the glass door onto damp sidewalk. Brakes wailed from a bus at the corner. Across the green light, she moved under a red umbrella. Her matte bag bumped against her hip in rhythm. I followed into the rain, close enough to hear choices. I kept 2 storefronts between us as we walked. Fry oil drifted from a cart and turned my stomach. Neon letters caged her shadow on a wet billboard. She paused to read a text near a mailbox. The screen lit her jaw like a secret blade. She turned into a brick building with tinted glass. Wet rubber stank from a rack of rental scooters. A small plaque read Loft East Studios in chrome. Her fob kissed a keypad and the lock clicked. I stopped under the awning, rain hissing like applause. I waited beside a trash can and counted breaths. Cold crawled through my sleeves and numbed the knuckles. A crushed cigarette but bled tar near my shoe. Music thumped once behind the glass like a hidden pulse. I checked the plaque again, Studio B after hours. I reached for the handle and felt cold metal bite. Light leaked through the seam like water under a door. Voices drifted from a hallway and then vanished. My breath ghosted the glass and blurred her last shadow. I pushed gently once, ready to lie if I had to. I pressed the handle and felt the door give. Cold lobby air rushed over my wrists. Fluorescent tubes buzzed softly above a rubber mat. A plexiglass sign-in sheet sat beside a cup of pens. I stepped inside and let the rain die behind me. A receptionist looked up from a silver laptop. Cinnamon gum scented the counter in sweet bursts. She tapped a clipboard with short red nails. Member name, she asked. Guest for Studio B, I said and lifted the lanyard. Her scanner beeped and flashed a green. The sticker warmed under my palm like skin. Hallway left then right, she said without smiling. A bowl of candy rattled as I brushed it. The sound popped in the quiet like bubbles. The corridors smelled like toner and brewed coffee. Light spilled low from frosted panels lining the wall. A cart of cables rolled slowly over a seam. Posters for workshops hung crooked on pushpins. I walked softer than my heart and read every door. A whiteboard stood on a tripod near a water cooler. Dry erase fumes stung my throat like static. Times and handles filled the grid in cramped handwriting. A line read B, 9:30, Kitty paid. I touched the cap of the marker and backed away. Music thumped once through a closed door ahead. The next door was propped by a blue sandbag. Soft pink light leaked along the floor tiles. A headset lay coiled on a stool like a snake. I listened for her voice and heard only humming. I eased the door wider with 2 fingers. Warm LEDs flooded my eyes like sunrise on metal. Foam panels quilted the walls in charcoal squares. A velvet chair faced a ring of light and a mic. A ceramic mug waited on a crate like a witness. A manager stepped from behind a divider, quietly. He smelled like cologne and printer ink mixed. Clipboard hung from his wrist on a frayed strap. "You early for B?" he asked. "Tech check," I said and kept my eyes steady. He nodded and adjusted the dimmer with a twist. The knob clicked under his thumb like a metronome. "Keep it clean tonight," he said without warmth. He set a roll of gaffer tape on the crate. His eyes lingered on my sticker, then moved on. He left, and the door sighed against the sandbag. I crossed to the desk and felt the wood grain. A small webcam sat on a stack of invoices. A pink sticky note read Kitty, tokens, and times. My mouth dried at the neat lines and arrows. I opened the top drawer and slid my hand. Paper clips rasped together like soft insect legs. A leopard case phone lay face down and warm. The glass vibrated once and showed a banner. "Manager, you good 10 minutes, client high-end." I dropped the phone as my pulse climbed. Electric hum bled from the power strip. A powder brush rolled and tapped the desk edge. The bristles were soft when I grabbed it. I placed it back like it could scream. Footsteps patted down the hall and paused. The exit sign hummed and painted red on metal. I ducked behind a rolling garment rack. A silk robe swayed and slid across my knuckles. The fabric felt like water that could drown. The door opened and she walked in. Rain glittered on her hair under the soft light. She set a black tote beside the velvet chair. "Lights at 70, she said to the empty room. Her voice carried steady like a wire pulled tight. She unzipped the tote and pulled a script. Paper crackled against her wrist as she flipped. She tested the mic with a quick tap. "Check 1, she said, then adjusted the filter. The foam smelled like dust and old breath. I watched through a gap in hanging sequins. The ring light haloed her cheekbones and jawline. She clipped a tiny transmitter to the robe. Her fingers trembled, once then settled flat. She stared into glass like it was a tide. A tuneless were started from a nearby fan. The silver laptop woke and spilled a login glow. She keyed a password with practice bursts. "Good evening," she said, and her shoulders lowered. The mic caught every breath like thread through teeth. "Hi, Kitty," a filtered voice said from the speaker. The tone was cheerful and a little damp. "I'm here," she said, and she nudged the mug. Her thumb left a fogged crescent on the glaze. I felt the room tilt toward a narrow path. "Ground rules," the voice said, lightly and quick. A chat window pinged in steady little taps. She adjusted the headset band with careful hands. "One request at a time," she said, and waited. The laptop fan climbed as if climbing a hill. "Say it slower," the voice said, almost a laugh. She smiled at the camera with a small tilt. Her ankle brushed the stand and made it ring. "Like this," she said, and her tone softened. I caught the word "daddy" when it finally landed. My fingers dug into the rack's cold crossbar. The sequins scraped my wrist like glittering sand. The headset cord swayed and touched her knee. "Good girl," the voice said, distant and sweet. Heat rose off the lights and tightened the air. She reached for the leopard phone on the desk. It buzzed in her palm like a living thing. She typed fast and held the screen to the lens. A cartoon heart bounced above a pay counter. My throat clicked dry at the figure turning green. A clock above the door ticked in patient beats. She leaned forward until a mic brushed her lip. The keyboard clacked a softer rhythm under her hand. "You like rules," she said, eyes fixed and bright. The word rules hung like a key between teeth. I stepped back and hit the sandbag with my heel. Rubber kissed rubber and made a small cough. She glanced toward the rack, then looked away. The camera red light blinked like a lidless eye. I held still while the room listened for me. 5 more minutes, the manager whispered from the hall. His shoes squeaked once and then faded, right? She tilted the mug and wet her mouth. Cinnamon curled off the rim and ghosted the room. I counted breaths and planned nothing good. She reached into the tote and pulled a collar. Not leather, silk ribbon stitched over satin. She tied it high and let the ends fall. Names are fine, she said and touched the bow. The ribbon glowed like a road you should not take. The chat pinged and the laptop chimed again. Emoji faces rolled across the bottom like marbles. She spoke a name and set a pace. Her voice carried steady through the foam screen. I felt the sound of my molars like a drill. I moved along the rack toward the far panel. Carpet gathered under my shoe with a soft drag. A clipboard hung on a hook beside the dimmer. It listed rates in tidy columns and notes. Add-ons were circled with little stars and arrows. A sticky note clung to the bottom corner. The paper curled like a leaf under heat. Beat backup account live, no real names ever. Ink blotted where the tip hesitated mid-stroke. Someone had paused before that word ever. Wrapped there, the voice said, sounding pleased and full. She exhaled softly and touched the ring light. The click of power sounded like a lock. Dark bled into the corners with sudden relief. I pressed flat behind sequins and steadied my breath. She gathered the script and smoothed the edges. Paper rasped against the crate like dry leaves. She pulled off the ribbon and slipped it inside. Her fingers shook when the knot stuck once. She closed her eyes a second longer than normal. The door nudged and opened an inch. The manager slid a receipt under the frame. He cleared his throat and tapped the wood twice. Cash out front, he said, quiet and quick. His cologne lingered like a stain after rain. She tucked the leopard phone into the tote. The zipper sang across metal teeth in one pull. She lifted the mug and emptied a cold sip. The ceramic clinked as she set it down. She glanced at the rack and adjusted her face. I stepped out when her eyes went to the knob. Light from the hall cut across my shoes. I held up the clipboard like a shield. Studio check, I said, and my voice shook. Her mouth opened without sound as the room tightened. Her mouth shaped a word I knew but hated. The ring light burned hot against my cheeks. I held the clipboard higher like it could shield me. The velvet chair behind her looked softer than any lie. Why are you here? She asked. Her fingers brushed the mic and made it click. Checking the setup, I said. The LED strip hummed softly along the baseboard. A script corner lifted in the draft like a white fin. Leave now, she said. She reached for the black tote with a quick grab. Talk to me, I said. Cinnamon rose from the mug and sweetened the heat. Her hand hovered over the zipper like a trigger. The door bumped and widened under a knuckle. Cold hallway air slid across my forearms. A man stepped in with a key ring jingling. His blazer smelled like cologne and fresh toner. His eyes counted objects, then landed squarely on me. Problem? He asked. He tapped the dimmer knob with 2 short clicks. Tech pass, I said and raised the lanyard. He watched the sticker glow under the pink light. Silence spread like a spill, waiting to be seen. Reuben, she said. She placed the tote on the crate and steadied it. He's with me, she said, voice low and careful. His clipboard brushed the door and left a graphite mark. He scratched it with his thumb like testing wet paint. Studio B stays quiet, he said. He slid a small notebook onto the crate. Sign out the hour, he said, eyes still flat. The pen rattled when it hit the cardboard edge. The sound felt too loud for 2 people pretending. He left with a soft shoe squeak and a throat clear. The door sealed and dulled the hallway noise. She let the ribbon slip from the tote to the floor. The satin dragged across the crate like a tired snake. Her shoulders fell like a tent snapped in wind. You followed me, she said. Her knuckles brushed the mic stand and made it ring. I saw enough, I said. The bulb buzzed and threw a halo across the desk. We stood locked inside light that made everything unforgiving. This is work, she said. Her breath warmed the foam screen with a faint fog. You framed it as work, I said. The velvet chairs seemed scratched my palm when I gripped it. She watched my hand like it might leave a bruise. You don't understand, she said. She gathered the pages and squared the edges. Try me, I said. The ceramic mug cooled as steam thinned to nothing. Her mouth trembled, once then closed like a clasp. A phone vibrated on the crate with a steady buzz. The leopard case flashed as the screen lit up. She grabbed it and swallowed hard before answering. Hi there, a male voice said, cheerful and damp. The sound curled across the room like a wet wire. Not a good time, she said. She moved near the light and shaded her eyes. 2 minutes, the voice said. Coins clinked faintly wherever he was calling from. He laughed once like he owned every clock. Speaker, I said. She hesitated and brushed the ribbon off her shoe. Speaker, I said again and pointed at the phone. She tapped the icon and stared at the ring light. My pulse thudded inside my ears like drumsticks. You the husband? He asked. He popped his lips like tasting something sweet. Who are you? I asked. The laptop's power brick ticked against the wood. Silence stretched like rubber pulled to a thin thread. Manager's friend, he said. He sniffed and cleared his throat once. Ask her about the extras, he said. The word extras scraped the foam like a blunt nail. He breathed louder as if drawing closer to the lens. There are no extras, she said. Her eyes cut to the blue sandbag by the door. Tell him about custom sessions, he said. A far radio murmured and then snapped off. My palms slicked as the phone warmed in hers. In the call, I said. My voice raked the quiet like a dull rake. She tapped and the screen fell back to black. The leopard spots soaked up the light like ink. The silence after felt heavier than his breath. The hallway vent coughed and pushed a dusty gust. The garment rack squeaked when I leaned it aside. What are custom sessions? I asked. She looked at the clock above the door and winced. The second hand chopped the room into brittle moments. Voice only, she said. She rubbed the bridge of her nose and blinked. Different names and longer script, she said. The mic stand cooled against my wrist like steel. Her shoe tapped once and stopped like she caught herself. You wrote that line, I said. I pointed at the laptop sleeping in a blue glow. She'll call me Daddy online, I said. The power button pulsed like a slow heartbeat. Her eyes flashed tight as if the word burned. I wrote it for someone, she said. She slid the notebook toward the edge, then stopped. It sells a story fast, she said. The crate groaned under shifting weight like a tired floor. She kept her thumb on the phone like guarding a fuse. A knock clipped the door again and paused. Reuben leaned in and sniffed the air once. We closing 10 minutes, he said. He slid a receipt pad across the crate without looking. The carbon copy curled like a tongue, tasting the room. We'll settle up front, she said. Her voice hit a hard edge that made him blink. Don't leave gear loose, he said. He nodded at the ring light and the headset hook. His key ring chimed once like a warning bell. He left, and his steps faded down the tiles. I picked up the pen and felt grooves in plastic. She took it and scribbled a line with quick strokes. The paper smelled faintly of oil and static. Her initials looked like stitches in thin fabric. Walk me out, she said. She slid the ribbon into the tote and zipped it. I killed the ring light and let darkness flood corners. The exit sign glowed red across the mixed chrome. We stood in that dim pocket like divers rising slow. We stepped into the hallway, and air cooled sharply. The water cooler glugged once then went still. She kept the phone under her palm like a stone. Talk in the car, she said. Her voice sounded brittle enough to cut skin. We passed the whiteboard and a marker rolled. It clicked against the tray and settled crooked. Reuben's chair creaked from the front desk area. Toner's scent thickened until it felt like chalk. I kept the lanyard hidden against my chest. At the lobby, glass doors reflected two tired people. Rain silvered the streetlights into shaky swords. She opened a cheap umbrella that still smelled new. Stay close, she said, as if I might drift. The wind pushed the fabric until it snapped once. We hit the sidewalk and the city hissed. Tires whispered over wet asphalt like snakes. She fumbled keys from the tote and cursed softly. A key fob blinked green across a black hood. The reflection of us bent and rippled like oil. My phone buzzed in my pocket with a hard nudge. Unknown number pulsed white against my thigh. I stared at the screen while rain ticked steady. Don't answer, she said, breath fogging the car window. The buzzing kept going like a drill in bone. I swiped and lifted it to my ear. Cold rain touched the speaker and shocked my skin. Mark, the voice said, smooth and certain. The wiper on a nearby cab slapped a wet rhythm. He knew me before I spoke, and that tightened everything. I cupped the phone, and the rain hissed. Yellow streetlights smeared across the wet hood. Mark, he said again, voice neat and warm. The wiper on a taxi slapped a steady beat. He sounded like someone who already owned us. Who is this? I asked. Water ran under my collar like cold fingers. Someone who covered the first deposit, he said. A bus roared past and shook the umbrella ribs. The leopard case in her hand flashed once. Hang up, she said. Her breath clouded the car window like smoke. She tried the handle, and the lock chirped red. My thumb pressed speaker, and the sound jumped. She flinched like the noise cut skin. Check the tote, he said. His voice blurred with traffic and rain. In the side pocket, you will find proof, he said. The crosswalk clicked and threw white stripes. Her tote strap creaked as she lifted it. Stop this, she said. She pulled the zipper and held it half shut. Vanilla and wet nylon breathed up from the bag. A sealed envelope lay against a plastic case. I saw the edge and everything tilted. Open it, he said. A horn barked and someone shouted at a cab. I reached in and felt paper grain against knuckles. The seal split with a soft, tacky sound. Her hand hovered like a warning sign. Inside was a letter on thick white stock. Blue ink bled under the streetlight like pool water. It named a clinic and a date for tomorrow. A deposit line stared at me with hard numbers. Rain whispered on the envelope like tiny nails. Who are you to us? I asked. My voice sounded smaller than the passing bus. A donor once, he said, clear and cool. The phone speaker crackled like a match burning. He let the words sit until it felt heavy. Hang up now, she said. Her keys clattered against the car door in panic. I held the letter and tasted copper on my tongue. The map light inside the car glowed soft amber. She unlocked the door with a shake I hated. We slid into the seats and shut out the hiss. The heater blew stale, dust that scratched my throat. A blue parking ticket lay stuck near the shifter. She gripped the wheel, though we were not moving. The unknown man waited on the tiny speaker. Why do you have our number? I asked. My thumb smeared rain across the screen surface. She gave it for verification, he said. He tapped something near his mic and paused. I heard an office fan spin and settle. Delete it, I said. The dashboard clock clicked to a new minute. After tomorrow, he said, almost gentle now. He cleared his throat and the sound felt rehearsed. You will need the receipt number they sent. End it, she said. Her voice scraped like sand on wet glass. She tapped speaker and the line went dead. The phone dropped onto the cup holder with a thud. The silence in the car spread like a bruise. Talk, I said. The heater clicked and warmed the steering wheel. She stared at the envelope like it might bite. I started after winter, she said. Her fingers drummed once on the gear knob. Why him? I asked. My knuckles brushed the rough seam of the seat. She swallowed and smelled like rain and cinnamon. He tipped early for a place in line, she said. Her mouth trembled, then locked like a door. What line? I asked. The radio display glowed a flat electric blue. The list at the clinic is brutal, she said. She pulled a plastic case from the tote and winced. Inside lay syringes and swabs on a chill pack. I touched the case and the cold bit hard. Alcohol pads smelled sharp and clean in the dark. She held one vial up to the map light. Tiny bubbles clung to the glass like stars. My stomach nodded as the car hummed. When were you going to tell me? I asked. A truck rattled by and shook the side mirror. After confirmation, she said, voice a soft thread. She slid the vial back and clicked the lid shut. The click sounded like something breaking slow. How much did you take from him? I asked. My palms left fog on the leather like ghosts. Enough for the first 2 rounds, she said. She rubbed her temple until the skin pinked. She watched the hazard light reflect on the dash. Are there others? I asked. The rain softened to a tap against the roof. She looked down at the torn envelope and blinked. One client pays for scripts and time, she said. Her hands pressed flat on the wheel as if praying. You used that line for him, I said. I kept the letter on my thigh like a weight. She closed her eyes and nodded once. Her lashes left wet shadows on her cheek. I felt the heater lose ground against cold air. You never met him, I said. The glove compartment handle caught a sliver of light. Never in person, she said, quick and firm. She tightened the seatbelt until it squeaked. Her voice steadied like a rope pulled tight. Why did he say donor? I asked. My finger traced the edge of the envelope slowly. He banked years ago and likes to track outcomes, she said. She glanced at the rear view and then the phone. Her meaning landed with the weight of a new word. Track how? I asked. The wipers squealed once and then rested flat. He follows clinics and fees and timing, she said. She tapped the letter where the code lived. I heard my own pulse thud under the dashboard hum. Show me the rest, I said. The tote zipper rasped open in a long line. She pulled a blue folder with a cracked corner. Inside lay schedules and an orange sticky with notes. Ink smeared under my thumb like rain on chalk. Shot at 7, she said. Her finger pressed the box beside the instruction line. The paper smelled like toner and new glue. She set a small timer on the console and exhaled. The green numbers waited like eyes in the dark. Why the studio then? I asked. A light from the street drew bars across her wrist. Because hours there are quiet and paid, she said. She glanced at the mirror and flinched at a siren flash. The answer sat between us like a loaded tool. The phone lit with a new message bubble. It glowed pale over the cup holder coin. Unknown number sent a screenshot of a wire receipt. The memo field read for tomorrow at 8:10. The digits looked colder than the rain outside. Block him, I said. My thumb hovered and then pulled back slow. If I do it now, we choke the schedule, she said. Her voice cracked and then fought its way flat. The car smelled like damp wool and old fear. You put us in this, I said. The steering wheel leather gripped back against my palm. I put myself in first, she said. She looked at the vial case and bit her lip. Something inside me shifted like ice on a roof. Will you stop after tomorrow? I asked. The clock ticked and the hazard light kept breathing. After we clear the second fee, she said. Her hand shook and then pressed still again. I tasted metal while I looked at the folder. No more custom sessions, I said. The seat creaked when I leaned closer to her. She nodded once and watched my mouth for doubt. Just scripts and time until it ends, she said. The umbrella dripped on the floor mat like a metronome. We set rules now, I said. The letter edge cut my thumb and stung. No late calls and no new names, I said. She closed the folder and slid it under the console. Her breath fogged the glass and vanished like a ghost. The phone buzzed again with a short stutter. A new text showed a single name and a time. He wrote, remember the code and bring ID. The screen lit our faces a sick winter blue. Tomorrow stepped closer like a blade under the door. The alarm ripped through the dark heart. I slapped the lamp on, amber and shaky. The syringe case sweated cold on the nightstand. Alcohol burned the air from a torn pad. We breathed together, counting seconds like we might drown. Her timer blinked green on the phone. She pinched her skin and nodded once. The needle scratched my glove as I passed. Do it now, she whispered, keep it steady. I pressed the plunger and watched the bead vanish fast. The lot flooded with gray dawn and taillights. I held the envelope while the heater rattled. Glass doors breathed out antiseptic like winter air. A plastic fern guarded the sign-in tablet. We stepped inside slowly, as if testing ice. The receptionist watched us through square glasses. Her cardigan smelled like dryer sheets and sugar. I gave the code, and a pen rolled. Her screen flashed yellow, and then an alert window. She cleared her throat, then read a sponsor note aloud like a warning. Third party on file wants ID before service. She tapped a clipboard where our names should sit. Contact number flagged the same unknown digits. She lifted a black desk phone, toward me slowly. Want me to ring him now? She asked. No, I said, we cover the balance ourselves. I slid the envelope across the tall counter. Paper rasped under her nails like dry leaves. She nodded and placed a blue wristband down. It felt flimsy and cold, like borrowed time. The phone buzzed against the plastic pen cup. Unknown again breathed across the tiny speaker. Answer please, he wrote, or the clinic calls me. I muted the call and watched the screen glare. He wants control of the door, I realized. We stepped outside into a washed slab of winter light. Someone smoked near the ash can and sweetened the air. I opened her account and changed the contact email. Two-factor blinked green on her phone after codes. Blocklist swallowed his number, then we waited. A nurse opened the door and called her name. Disinfectant bit hard and lights drilled our eyes. She clipped a pin to my shirt and smiled. Point of contact, she asked, and held a form. Me, I said, and the wristband tightened slightly. She reached for my hand and squeezed once. The curtain swayed and rattled against the metal rail. Cold gel touched skin, and the machine hummed near. We looked at the timer and breathed together again. Whatever calls came next, they would find a wall.